can sometimes feel like a lot, but you don't have to do it alone. I strongly believe that we're stronger together. Here, we're going to slow down, have real talks, make sense of things together, and explore ways to intentionally grow the life you want. We're going to talk about mental and physical health, relationships, money, work, and community. Welcome to Rooted in Intention with me, Karina Gomez. Hi, welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to be diving into some common traps that you might run into in learning about attachment styles. So, if you aren't familiar with attachment theory, I would highly suggest that you go check out the podcast where I dive into this in a little bit more detail. Because for this episode, I'm going to, more than anything, just provide a quick summary to catch you up about attachment theory. So, attachment theory essentially tells us that as kids, the manner in which our parents or our caregivers engaged with us, that created these blueprints that live within our subconscious mind that now exist as these core beliefs, beliefs that we have about ourselves and others and the world around us. These core beliefs that live within our subconscious mind are running on autopilot and creating our inner monologue or how you talk to yourself. They're creating your emotional responses, your coping patterns, your daily actions, and all of those things together are the things that are shaping your reality, especially within your relationships. And if your parents provided and cared for you, for your physical and for your emotional needs in a consistent manner, then you likely developed a secure attachment style, meaning that you feel safe and you feel comfortable getting close to people. You feel comfortable with resolving and moving through conflict. And probably most importantly, you have this deep sense of trust in yourself and you're able to trust others. So, if that doesn't sound like you, then you most likely developed one of the three insecure attachment styles, which are the anxious preoccupied, the dismissive avoidant, or the fearful avoidant, which is also known as the disorganized attachment style. And there could have been an array of dynamics in your childhood that could have resulted in you developing an insecure attachment style. But three of the most common reasons that are rooted within childhood that result in an insecure attachment style are one, having parents that maybe actually showed up for you, but they maybe did so in an inconsistent manner, maybe because they were a single parent and they had to work a lot, or maybe both of your parents had to work long hours in order to provide financially for the family. So, in either of these situations, your parents weren't able to be there for you as much, or they weren't able to be there for you in a consistent manner, which could have taught you or your little kid brain essentially that love was inconsistent. Reason number two is that you may have had parents that just didn't know how to emotionally attune to you. And what that means is that your parent may not have known how to actually acknowledge and validate your feelings in a manner that left you feeling truly seen and understood and supported, which are important things to teach a child that's developing, that their brain is learning new things for the first time, that their nervous system is also developing how to emotionally regulate, which we now know is one of the things that is really important in order to be able to sustain your mental and emotional health. And a third reason, or really it's a category of reasons for why you could have developed a secure attachment style, is if you you grew up in a home that felt chaotic. So maybe your parents spent a lot of time fighting, or there was a poorly handled divorce, and your parents maybe didn't know how to resolve conflict amongst themselves. Maybe a parent had a mental illness, or they used alcohol or drugs at home, or maybe there was physical or emotional abuse at home. These aren't necessarily the things that allow for a child to feel safe. And as you can imagine, if there's a lot of that type of chaos within the home, then a little kid isn't going to learn that relationships, that love can feel safe, and that there is trust within the world, or learn skills that a parent might not have been modeling for them to learn as well if they were caught up in their own trauma and their own issues. And I do really just want to emphasize, as I share these reasons, that this isn't necessarily information to blame your parents, but to help you understand more than anything about how your upbringing and ways that you learn to cope to get you through your childhood may no longer be serving you now more than anything, even though they served you at some point in time, especially because with emotional health and resilience, that's something that I would say is relatively new to us. And it's something that we're talking a lot more about in more recent years. But the really cool thing about attachment science, particularly if you have one of the three insecure attachment styles, is that it helps to describe and to explain why you feel certain ways in relationships, why you tend to feel anxious, why you tend to feel alone or trapped or maybe not enough. It helps to describe patterns of how you show up in relationships. If maybe you tend to show up wanting closeness and not feeling like you ever can get close enough to your partner. If you tend to show up in relationships really fearing conflict and trying to avoid it at all costs, if you tend to show up being afraid of always committing or putting a label on it, or maybe you tend to show up being very hyper aware of all the things that your partner is doing, as if you were trying to find evidence that there's something wrong and you can't feel safe within the relationship. Attachment theory also helps you understand what are the areas that you need to work on to move towards a secure attachment, because your attachment style is not fixed. So, earning your attachment security will actually help you feel safe and to feel at peace. And it's going to help you attract and stay with partners that can help you build and sustain a healthy relationship with you too. And if you clicked on this episode, I imagine that you're probably already a little familiar with attachment theory, and you've been reading all of the books and listening to podcasts and really trying to understand attachment theory from an array of angles and attempting to use that information to get your partner to change. And I know it can be easy to learn about attachment theory and to actually focus on what the other person is doing or not doing rather than looking inward. So, I want to share some common traps. So, if you are doing this work and you are trying to do better, you can stop yourself before committing these common mistakes. So, if you lean on the anxious side, it might be really easy to fall into the trap of attempting to learn about the other person with the avoidant attachment to get them to commit or to stay or change to meet your needs. And I think this can be particularly so if you're getting your information online, because I can see in the online spaces how there's so much information about how to get your avoidant partner to stay, how to get your avoidant partner to commit, and so on and so forth. And it's actually really frustrating seeing that there's so much content out there for people that have an anxious, preoccupied attachment style, because I think some of these tips or advice actually keep you stuck in that space of anxiety rather than actually moving towards healing and into a place of self empowerment. Because imagine if you try to do all of these tips, think about it like this. If you get into a relationship or you stay in a relationship by either turning yourself into a pretzel or not showing up authentically, you're going to end up in an unsatisfying relationship down the line because neither you nor your partner have done the work to actually build and sustain a healthy relationship. So that's why I would just really caution you with the information that you're taking in, particularly if you tend to lean on the anxious side. Now, if you tend to lean on the avoidance side, particularly if you have dismissive avoidance attachment style, it might be really easy to fall into the trap of attempting to dismiss the person with the anxious attachment style as being too much or being too needy. And unfortunately, I think that there's less information out there catered to you if you have an avoidant attachment style, which I think is a complete disservice because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if you have an avoidant attachment style, you might actually think that you're providing enough to a relationship. And the thing is that you might not actually realize that you're oftentimes missing the deep emotional piece within relationships. Because think of it like this: if you didn't receive that as a kid, especially the emotional attunement that I was talking about earlier, you grow up not realizing how important and how normal it is to be emotionally close with someone and what that actually looks like. So I would really just caution you to not dismiss someone for having needs that might seem like too much for you. And I speak about these not only as a relationship coach specialized in attachment theory, but also as someone that has had to do healing of a disorganized attachment style that experienced both the anxious and avoidant coping mechanisms. So I can assure you that both of the traps that I just shared with you will keep you stuck in the loop of repeating the same patterns and not actually having the satisfying and fulfilling relationships that you truly want. And you deserve to have relationships that feel good to you, which is not to say that in a healthy relationship you will only feel good because conflict is normal, but in a healthy relationship dynamic, you will actually feel safe enough to know that you can resolve conflict together, and you will feel safe enough to be yourself and to actually connect vulnerably. And if both you and your partner have one of the insecure attachment patterns, which is a high probability if you yourself have an insecure attachment style, then you may even experience some discomfort as hopefully you and your partner heal into attachment security, because you will each have to learn your own triggers and how to better navigate them. And that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, but it should not be painful. Think of healing your attachment style as a workout. A workout session will feel uncomfortable because the activity is pushing your body, but it should not feel painful. Pain during a workout is telling you to stop, that your body can't or that it shouldn't keep doing the movement, and pushing yourself might actually result in damaging a joint, a tendon, or a muscle rather than actually gaining strength or endurance, whatever you're working out for. And knowing that difference is going to really just come down to trusting and listening to yourself. So, the emotional growth of moving towards a secure attachment style is actually going to be very, very similar to that workout experience. If you lean towards the anxious side, you will have to learn how to sit with some discomfort and self soothe and how to fill your own cup so you don't feel as reliant on others to fill your cup for you. If you lean on the avoidant side, you're going to have to learn how to lean towards your partner and practice more emotional vulnerability so you can create more moments of connection and allow people into your world because your tendency is most likely leaning into that hyper independence. If you tend to flip flop between both of these because you have disorganized attachment, you're going to obviously need to do both of the things that I just mentioned, but perhaps most importantly, you're going to have to learn about emotional regulation and really creating safety and trust within yourself. And those are the things that you truly have control over and that you are accountable for healing through. But if you did come across attachment theory before your partner did, and you notice that they might have one of this insecure attachment styles, which means that there's that opportunity for their own growth as well, can you invite them to learn alongside you? Absolutely. I would actually encourage you to bring up what you learned and with them because communication is important. And it's one of those key things that people that have a secure attachment style actually do. They communicate very directly and openly, not just with their partners, but also with other people. And again, I also really, really, really want to highlight that you can bring this up, but ultimately, you cannot force anyone to do the work. If someone wants to change, it's really going to have to come from them. And each person is going to have to take accountability for their own healing and how they show up in relationship to others. So, for you, learning about attachment theory gives you the knowledge and the insight about why the other person behaves the way that they do and how you can offer compassion and support to them. Because at the end of the day, we don't pick our attachment style. We learned it as a coping mechanism in our formative years. So, if someone has the opposite attachment style from you, this information helps you better understand and show compassion for them. But most importantly, as you do the work to heal your own attachment patterns, you're really going to start to realize that what's really in your power is actually using this information to decide what relationships you want to stay in and which ones you're better off opting out of. You'll start noticing what relationships feel good to you and which ones are bringing out the best in you, especially if you're still in a dating phase. As you heal your attachment style, you're going to really learn how to honor and how to communicate your wants and your needs and your boundaries. And you're going to learn how to differentiate which of your triggers are calling to you to heal and which things are actually calling to you and alerting you that this isn't the relationship for you. And that's why, if you are again dating, working towards your secure attachment is actually going to change the way that you experience dating and how you vet potential partners. If you're in a longer committed relationship or you're married, working towards your secure attachment can help you feel closer to your partner and create a more satisfying and fulfilling relationship for the both of you. However, it might also, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, cause you to realize that the relationship that you're currently in, regardless of how long you've been in it, might have actually reached its conclusion. And that's sad and it's a hard reality. But ultimately, no one can tell you whether to stay or leave a relationship. But as you do your own healing and work towards your attachment security, you're going to know. You're going to have that intuition and your gut feeling telling you, especially because healing your attachment security doesn't just heal your relationships with other people, it actually heals your relationship to yourself. So you're actually going to be more grounded in your own truth along that healing journey as well. So I know I shared a few things, but if you have one main takeaway from this episode, let it be that if you're learning about attachment styles, it really is going to come down to your own journey of you doing the work to earn your attachment security so you can show up as your best self either in dating or in the relationship that you're currently in. And if you are in a relationship, you can invite the other person to join you in this journey. But ultimately, if they want to come along with you on that journey, that's going to be up to them because you have no control or power over other people. You can only control the things that you do. So I'll leave you with that. And if you're feeling stuck or you're unsure of how to move towards your attachment security and you want some support, you want some guidance on what it even looks like to show up in a healthy way, you can set up a call with me using the link in the show notes so we can talk about what's coming up for you, and how we might be able to work together. And if you enjoyed the episode, I would greatly appreciate if you left a review. Let me know your thoughts. And if you know someone that needs to hear the message in this episode, go ahead and share it with them as well, because sharing is caring and the world is only bound to be better as we each make the effort to heal and to show up differently and intentionally. Okay, that's it. Bye. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Rooted in Intention. Until next time, and remember to keep showing up for the life, relationships,